Well, hello everybody. I have no idea if this is working. I have no idea if you can see me. I have no idea if you can hear me. Um, but I'm just gonna wing this. So this is my first stream here on Bretflix. Unless you saw the like 3-minute clip or whatever that I did yesterday, just trying to test all this equipment out. I kind of decided to leave the clip up just because I don't know. I thought it was funny. But this is my first stream. I think this is the direction I'm going to try to take the channel for now. I think this is what I want it to be. And in my update video, I talked about how Bretflix, my videos, there really wasn't anything visual I did in them. So making videos just seemed kind of pointless to me. I really felt like for the longest time my show should be more of like a podcast thing. So here I am not doing what I feel like I should be doing. I'm not doing a podcast. I'm doing a live stream. But, live stream means no editing. I can still show my face. It's all off the cuff, improvised, whatever. So I'm going to try this for a little while, see if this can work. It's kind of a muggy day. It's been a good day. I haven't been doing much. I woke up around noon because I was out a little too late last night and played some video games. I got some Taco Bell. In fact, I still have some hot sauce here. I got some Baja Blast when I need some fuel. Yeah. Anyway, and I put on one of my new favorite shirts. One of the things I forgot to mention in my update video is a few weeks ago I went and saw The Who for the second time. Don't mean to brag, I saw them for the second time up in Seattle, and that was a really, really great time. Again, I have a ton of stories I could tell just from that trip with all my friends and seeing them in concert, and they were amazing. They're all in their mid-70s, but they are as good as they've ever been. But this stream is about movies and movie-related stuff, and I have a couple topics I have written down that I would like to kind of give my 2 cents on. And the first thing I have is the whole Scorsese Marvel thing, the comment Scorsese made about Marvel that kind of went sort of viral. How Scorsese said that Marvel movies are not cinema, and people were pissed about that. People were not happy. You had all kinds of reactions, and people were pretty passionate about that, about what that meant, and they felt attacked. They were just offended by that. Like their taste in movies was completely invalidated by arguably the greatest living filmmaker. I mean, if some filmmaker, some young man or woman that is just made a couple independent stuff or maybe works in television were to come out and say something like that, no one would care. No one would give a shit. But when Martin Scorsese, the dude who made Taxi Driver and Raging Bull and Goodfellas and Last Temptation of Christ and Bringing Out the Dead and The Departed, Oscar-winning Martin Scorsese says Marvel movies are not cinema, that's going to cause a big reaction. And I remember when I first saw that online, I didn't even see like his initial statement. I just saw people's reaction to that statement, and I was a little confused, honestly. I was a little like why do people care? Like that's really my feelings on it. Why would anyone give a shit that Martin Scorsese doesn't like Marvel movies? What does that really matter to anybody? Now, when you hear the actual, his actual statement, his initial statement that caused all the controversy, it's really not that malicious of a thing he said. Like, you really get the feel that he's just like, they're not for me. I don't really care for them. But people just latch on to the whole thing where he just said they're not cinema, and they just kind of let that. Okay, who's calling me a boomer? Zinc deficiency. I know this guy. I got a word for you. Boom. Take that, my dude. Where was I? Right. They latched onto the whole Marvel movies are not cinema thing, and they took it as this malicious statement, and I saw lots of articles sharing that he said that with a picture of Martin Scorsese looking kind of angry. And then you go and you hear his actual statements, and it really wasn't that big of a deal. But he has since gone to clarify what he meant by that. I have an article right here on my computer screen that I wish you were looking at, but I haven't quite figured out how to set that part up yet on this whole stream thing, where he just clarified what he meant by it. It's an article in the New York Times. You can look it up. I'm going to read a little bit from it, and I think that it's a good response. It's something that, like I said, just clarifies what he meant. So he starts off by saying, when I was in England in early October, I gave an interview to Empire magazine. I was asked a question about Marvel movies. I answered it. I said that I've tried to watch a few of them, that they're not for me, and that they seem to be closer to theme parks than they are to movies, as I've known and loved them throughout my life, and that in the end, I don't think they're cinema. Sorry, I'm struggling to read through this. The Taco Bell is fighting back at me. Some people seem to have seized on the last part of my answer as insulting or as evidence of hatred for Marvel on my part. If anyone is intent on characterizing my words in that light, there's nothing I can do to stand in the way. Many franchise films are made by people of considerable talent and artistry. You can see it on the screen. The fact that these films themselves don't interest me is a matter of personal taste and temperament. I know that if I were younger, if I'd come of age at a later time, I think that I might have been excited by these pictures and maybe even wanted to make one myself. But I grew up when I did and developed a sense of movies, of what they are and what they could be. And that was far from the Marvel Universe as we are on Earth are from Alpha Centauri. I think that's pretty funny. For me, the filmmakers I came to love and respect, for my friends who started making movies around the same time that I did, cinema was about revelation, aesthetic, emotional, and spiritual revelation. It was about characters, the complexity of people and their contradictory and sometimes paradoxical natures, the way they can hurt one another and love one another and suddenly come face to face with themselves. Now, I think that's a much better way to put it than simply saying they're not cinema. Like, you really can tell he's saying they're not my cinema. They're not what I look for in cinema. Now, if you've seen other videos on my channel, I have kind of dogged on Marvel movies before. And so I'm going to come out and say, I don't think that Marvel movies are cinema either. But, of course, that just means that they're not my cinema. Obviously, yes, they are cinema. They are extremely cinematic. You have special effects, and you have incredible sound design. You have millions and millions of dollars, and it all shows on the screen. They're incredible spectacles. And you really have to give it up for Marvel for creating such a huge, connected universe. You know, now it's kind of a meme to say, oh, these movies have a shared universe, and it's a little cringy now. But Marvel was doing that before it was cringy. They weren't the first to do it, but they were doing it before it was cringy. And just like what they've achieved, really is impressive. Every one of those movies makes $1 billion at the box office. Like, they really have tapped into something that people want to see right now. And Scorsese just comes from a time where that's not what people were looking for. He also comes from a time where making a movie like The Avengers just really wasn't possible the same way it is now. Like, back in the 70s, the only movie that would come close to something like The Avengers was Superman, the Richard Donner films, and of course Richard Lester and stuff too. But those movies, they were just too difficult to make back then. You didn't have digital effects like you do now. Like, you didn't have digital filmmaking. Everything had to be done. Almost everything had to be done in camera. It's just a nightmare to make movies like that. So it was a rarity. So for the most part, the types of films you saw were Taxi Drivers. Those extremely personal films, like movies that are a result of a singular artist, like tearing a part of his soul out and displaying it for the world to see. To him, that's what cinema is all about. Like, that's what he really responds to. And for the most part, same with me. But I also love the popcorn entertainment too. Like, it's a very valid part of cinema. But I have no interest in Marvel movies the same way Scorsese has no interest in Marvel movies. But the thing is like I said earlier before, why does anyone care? Why would anyone care that some dude somewhere says Marvel movies aren't cinema? Like, yeah, it's Martin Scorsese saying it, so like, the dude knows a thing or two about movies. But I just don't get why that has to really affect your enjoyment on it. Why do you have to get fired up? Just like, I mean, if someone gets in my face and tells me Raging Bull's not cinema, that's just not going to mean anything to me. It's like, okay, just you don't like Raging Bull, sweet. I love Raging Bull, whatever. Um, and that's really kind of all I have to say about it is, don't give a shit what Martin Scorsese says about the movies you love. Like, he doesn't have to love the movies you love for them to be valid. Like, if you go to see Avengers 14 and you love it and you're excited for Avengers 15, like, that's great. I almost said game on, but this isn't video games, this is film. This is, I don't know, whatever the cinematic equivalent of the term game on would be. Like, just do whatever it is you want to do. Watch the movies you want to watch. Who cares? Don't feed into this to all this anger and this clickbait. Scorsese doesn't hate people who like Marvel films. He doesn't think you're stupid. Now, there have been other directors that have come out and said, like, I don't like them either. Now, I don't want to misquote Francis Ford Coppola, but I remember Coppola, he had some kind of malicious things to say about Marvel. I don't really want to get into it, but at least that's the way I remember them being. I could be wrong. I could be wrong about the Coppola thing. But there have been other directors that have come out and said, I don't really like them either, but, I think everyone has the same sort of temperament that just like what you like. You don't need to make excuses for it. If you only like to watch the comic book movie stuff, whether it be Marvel or DC or I honestly don't really know many other comic book companies. I think Dark Horse might be one. Whoever made Hellboy. Anyway, just like what you like. You don't need to make excuses for it. You don't have to justify it. It doesn't matter. That's really my 2 cents on it. I just think it's just not really something worth caring about. And then lastly, to have a shitty way of segueing into the next thing I wanted to talk about on this stream was I saw Tarantino's new movie. I'm sure a lot of people did. It's kind of old news at this point because it's been months since it's come out. But it's one that I still think about. And I went to go see it several times. One of the cool things about Portland is like you could see it here on film, which I really don't know how regular of a thing that is. Maybe like in bigger cities, it's like, oh yeah, we see movies on film all the time. For me, it's a big deal. I mean, I come from a small town where that's just kind of like, that's a dream. Like you never get to see things projected on film. I'm reading the comments here, and Marvel movies are not cinema bredimus Fliximus. Oh, shit. That's my name in Latin, actually. Anyway, yeah, I saw this new film and I loved it. I saw it in total. I saw it 6 times in theaters. The theater that I saw it at, the Hollywood Theater. They projected it in film. They played it on 35 millimeter, and it looked amazing. And in fact, for one short weekend, we even had it on 70 millimeter, which was awesome. And then we got it again because, like, I guess it was sort of re-released or something with some additional footage, not edited into the movie, but like before the movie started, we got to see a deleted scene and like an extended scene. And so when that came around, I went to go see it again because I think the movie is extremely entertaining. Like I said, I've seen it 6 times in the span of a couple months, and it really didn't get old. I mean, after that 6th time, I was like, okay, I think I've seen it enough. But that's how many times it took. Most movies you see once, and you never see again for the rest of your life. And like, this is a movie I saw 6 times, and I know I'm going to be seeing it more and more throughout the years. And that's something that goes for every Tarantino movie. I've seen every Tarantino movie several times because they're interesting. There's always something to talk about with his movies. He's always challenging you, giving you something you haven't seen before, and like even when his movies don't work, like when he makes a weaker movie, like in my opinion, Reservoir Dogs is his worst movie, his weakest movie. It's a good movie, but I think it's his weakest movie. Yet I have seen it as many times as I've seen like Kill Bill, which is probably my favorite of his, because it's weak, but it's still such creative filmmaking that I still am like fascinated by it. You know what I mean? Um, so I should say, I don't remember if I've said anything about in the title or not, but I'm going to spoil the hell out of this movie. I'm not going to hold back on spoilers right now. So if you haven't seen it and you don't want to know anything about it, like what specifically happens, you're probably going to have to click off the stream right now. So the movie advertised itself as being kind of like about the Manson murders, or at least like the few advertisements I saw, because I really did try to stay away from trailers, and I tried to stay away from all the promotional stuff because I just didn't want any sort of like, I didn't want any sort of expectations. I wanted to go into it completely open minded, and that was the impression I had. Was it was like, oh, Quentin Tarantino, he's tackling the Manson murders. This is gonna be crazy. Well, the movie is not at all about the Manson murders. like that is an element to it. Like Charles Manson, he's in 45 seconds of the film, maybe. The family, the whole Manson family, they do get a pretty good sequence in the film. Kind of about halfway through, Brad Pitt goes to the place where they live, and there's a pretty good scene that takes place there. And then the movie does end with like the Manson family breaking into a house and trying to kill people. But the movie's really not very concerned with that aspect of the story at all. What the movie is about, it's about a kind of washed up movie actor, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and it's about his bromance with his stunt double. That's really what the movie is. It's a bromance that takes place in an era of Hollywood that Tarantino fetishizes so much, and most of the movie is just kind of him is Tarantino indulging in this like era of Hollywood. You get because like I said, DiCaprio plays an actor, and throughout most of the movie, he's like on sets and he's like getting into character, practicing lines, things like that. And you actually get to see like entire scenes play out, scenes that he is acting in the movie. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but in the movie, he landed a role on a television western called Lancer, and he arrives at the set early on in the movie, and so throughout the movie you get to see him actually like play out entire scenes of this television show, and so you really get to see like Tarantino just get to direct a late '60s television western. There's lots of moments like that. When you're getting some backstory of DiCaprio's character, part of his backstory is that he was on a very popular western show where he played a bounty killer called Bounty Law, and you get to see scenes of him in that show. So a big bulk of this movie is just DiCaprio being in movies and being in television, and so it's really entertaining to see how indulgent Tarantino gets. And normally when you hear the word indulgent, it has such a negative connotation, but I don't think it's supposed to. At least I don't mean it with a negative connotation in this context. Like I mean in a good way. I love the way Tarantino indulges and how he just like dives into like the television scene and the film scene of that era. How much he like shows like how he shows Sharon Tate, like how much she was loved by audience members and how beautiful she was. And like I use the word indulgent in a negative context when I talk about a director like Godard, But when I'm talking about Tarantino, I mean it in the best possible way. It makes this movie extremely entertaining. So while like DiCaprio is doing his movie thing, Brad Pitt is Brad Pitt's character says it himself. He is not just DiCaprio's stunt double, but he's his gopher. He's his driver. He's his. I almost said he's his bitch, but he's not really his bitch. He just works for DiCaprio. Like they spend all their free time together. He fixes stuff around DiCaprio's house, drives him around all over the place. He is the gopher, and you expect a scene in the movie where like they clash. You know, there's that obligatory scene where the buddies of any movie will clash with each other. They'll go separate ways, and then right before like the third act starts, they get back together and they mend their problems. That never really happens here because they have such a good friendship. Like even though Brad Pitt's the gopher, and I was expecting there to be a scene of him being like, "You boss me around too much, DiCaprio. You keep telling me what to do. Fuck you." That never happened actually, because he genuinely enjoys doing stuff for DiCaprio. That's the friendship that they have, and they both like their places in that friendship. And then at the very end of the movie, when the Manson family breaks in and Brad Pitt just kicks their asses, and then he goes off to the hospital, and you see like DiCaprio like knock on the window and go, "Hey, you're a good friend," and Brad Pitt's like, "I try." Like you really feel that, and that's when it hit me that this movie really was about this bromance between these two people, and then like the late '60s Hollywood is just the backdrop of it all, and so you see Tarantino just like how much he loves that time, how much he loves that era of Hollywood, and how much he loves those costumes and the music and like the way people would talk, and like even I loved even watching Margot Robbie dance at the Playboy Mansion. Not, I mean, I know that sounds strange. Dancing at the Playboy Mansion sounds very exploitive, but she goes to a party in the film, and she just dances, and I just loved seeing all the people and the costumes they were wearing. It just felt very '60s. It felt very authentic. The way she was moving felt very '60s. Just all the details of this film are just so pristine. It's incredible, and people talk a lot about Tarantino and how he always makes very violent films, and he does typically, especially Django Unchained. And there is a violence in this movie, but it happens like at the very end, and it is shockingly violent at the end. Like the first time I saw it and I didn't know it was coming, like I felt like I needed to turn away from the screen. You know, Brad Pitt's literally like smashing people's faces in on like stone fireplaces and phones, and people are getting burned alive and stuff. It's it's brief, but it's very shocking. But that's not the part you really walk away remembering. Like I've seen the movie again 6 times now, and I've talked a lot about this movie with my roommates and other friends, and we never talk about the violence in the film. We're always quoting earlier parts. Like we love quoting the scene where Bruce Lee and Brad Pitt kind of have their fight together, and I love quoting the parts at the very end when DiCaprio is talking to Emile Hirsch with the gate separating them. Like I'm always talking about everything that happens before the very end, and I think that goes to show that Tarantino, obviously he doesn't just make violent movies. Like his movies have just a lot more character and nuance to them than that. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I thought was incredible. I thought it was a masterpiece, one of the best films of the year. Like all those cliche things every film critic says, like I think fits this movie. People every time such a big director puts a movie out, one of the first things they want to do is like rank it. They want to see like, how does Once Upon a Time in Hollywood compare to Tarantino's other films? Like, where would I put it in my personal rankings of his movies? And that's a tough thing to do. Mostly just because like rankings are very arbitrary anyway. But I don't know if I'd say like Hollywood is one of my favorites, but it's just kind of up there because I love all of his movies for their own reasons, for very different reasons. And before before Hollywood came out, me and a roommate of mine, Felix, we watched all of Tarantino's movies, not in order from like his first to his last, just kind of like whatever we were feeling like. But we watched his entire filmography. We did watch Four Rooms, but we watched Death Proof and we watched Jackie Brown and Kill Bill and Pulp Fiction. We watched everything. So they're all pretty fresh in my head. And so like when I think about rankings, I normally don't think about it because they're stupid. But I don't know if I'd say this is one of his best because it's like, what does that mean? Everyone feels like Reservoir Dogs is his best, or Pulp Fiction is his best, or Kill Bill. I think if I had to pick like a favorite, maybe Kill Bill, collectively volumes 1 and 2. No way in hell can you honestly say no one will remember the violent parts in the film. The dude lights a woman on fire with a flamethrower. I agree, Mr. Deficiency. It is a talking point, but I just don't think like that's really what the film itself is about. You know what I mean? Like, it's a big moment, and it's the whole movie's leading up to it. But I feel like what the movie really is about just that era of Hollywood. Now, if you're going to say that it's not an important part, I agree, but not memorable. Woo lad. Okay, good point. It is memorable. That is definitely true. But that's just not the stuff I really take away from it when I see the movie repeated times. What's the subject of this talk? The title is Foggy. Yeah, titles is definitely something I'm going to have to work on. Really, what I started talking about was Scorsese versus Marvel, the comments Scorsese made. I have since moved on since then. I gave my 2 cents on that. And now I'm just giving a spoiler-filled review of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. There's no real main idea of the stream. I'm just kind of ranting. But anyway, those two topics, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Scorsese and Marvel, that's really all I had sort of prepared for this stream. So I'm kind of out of things to say here. If anyone, I don't know how many people are watching. Damn, I have 3 people watching me? I wonder if I count as one of those, though. I might count as one of them. But I don't know. If anyone has a question, you may ask. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of start wrapping things up. I should have kind of fixed my background a little bit. Like you can see I have hurricane boxes on my bed. Those are not full of hurricanes though. Those are full of movies. This is basically my entire film collection right here. And there's some video games sprinkled about in there. I'm still trying to get settled in. I've been living here now for 3 months, but I need to get off my ass and buy some bookshelves and stuff. And, one of them is you, Boomer. One of what is me? I don't know what is me, but you're probably not wrong. Zinc deficiency, you know me very well, so whatever you're accusing me of being, you're probably correct. Anyway, so yeah, I need to kind of get my life together here, but I'm gonna sign off. And the first stream was fun. I hope you guys had fun. The two maybe 3 people that watched me. So. Saying goodbye is the hardest thing. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood should have been made when Hollywood was still alive. Is Hollywood dead? Is that like what you're trying to say? Big Hollywood filmmaking is dead. Couldn't find any decent movie since 2016. Any decent movie coming out of Hollywood since 2016? I don't know, like something very like really good. I mean, because there's always like good movies, but like what's really worth remembering, I don't know, Hollywood mostly makes stuff that's not worth remembering. Off the top of my head, honestly, I can't really think of like a big Hollywood movie that came out since 2016 that I was really excited about. I'm sure. I'm sure if I looked it up, like if I got on IMDb or something and looked up a bunch of movies, I'd be like, oh yeah, that one was really good and that one was really good. But it probably says something that I am not remembering it. So there probably really wasn't anything that big. Hollywood is all cape shit now. Oh, I am one of my own viewers. That's what you're saying. Let me see. Well, I'm still very impressed by those numbers. The fact that 2 people tuned in, I'm very, very excited about. Hollywood is all cape shit now. Cape shit, it's a term I've never heard before, but I assume that means Hollywood sucks now. And to be fair, Hollywood's always sucked. Fucking Joker was pretty good, mate. I haven't seen Joker yet. I don't know if I'm going to go to the theater to see it. I want to see it. I'm just not too excited about seeing Joker. I'll probably check that out when it comes on, a streaming service or DVD or something. Epstein didn't kill himself. Well, shit, we all knew that. That's nothing new. But yeah, Hollywood has always been really shitty. Me and my roommate Dana, we were watching the original Poseidon Adventure a few nights ago, and we were talking about kind of trends in Hollywood and things that were popular. The original Poseidon Adventure came out, I believe, in like the 70s or something. I'm like, man, this is awful. Hollywood's always put out shit. They always have. And they're just continuing to do that, just with bigger budgets and bigger returns too. All their movies are making more money than they ever have. But that'll probably never change. I mean, Hollywood's always going to kind of be a joke. They are more concerned with making money than anything else, and it's hard not to be that concerned with it because there's tons and tons of money to be made. Cape shit equals low effort superhero films. Yeah, they crap them out not once a year. I'm gonna say just Marvel I think releases like 2 or 3 every single year now at the rate they're going at, not counting the DC stuff and other things that like I didn't even know were based on comic books. There's always stuff. But yeah, the cape shit always makes lots of money. Like I said earlier, like every Marvel movie makes over $1 billion. Like it's kind of rare when it doesn't. Yep, it is the Hollywood trend now. But like all trends are bubbles. Eventually they'll pop. I would have thought that the superhero trend would have popped by now, though. Like because I got sick of the oversaturation of superhero films when the first Avengers movie came out. I haven't seen a movie that's a part of the MCU since the first Avengers film, and I'm already kind of done with it. I have seen other comic book movies, I've seen some of the X-Men movies that have come out like after that Avengers movie did. Like I saw Logan and stuff. I really liked Logan, by the way. So I have seen some comic book movies. I saw the Batman versus Superman thing, and it's like, I don't know, who really gives a shit at this point? It's like they're all the same. We know how they're all gonna end. So none of it really matters. Yeah. I don't know when it's gonna pop though, because they are as popular as ever. I don't know where Endgame sits with the box office record right now. Like, I know it's obviously one of the highest grossing films ever. I don't know if it has taken the number 1 spot yet. I could look it up, but I don't really care. I know that adjusted for inflation, it's still not number 1. I think adjusted for inflation, I think Titanic still might have it beat. The biggest one is still Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind has tripled. It's like $3 billion when adjusted for inflation, something crazy like that. But anyway, Zeke Deficiency, it is always a pleasure talking to you. Hatham BH, I don't know if you're still watching, but I really appreciate you tuning in. And I'm going to end it here. I really need to use the restroom. So, all right. I don't know when I'm going to stream again. Probably a few days. I'll try to do at least once a week. Try to do even more than that. So, anyway, I need an outro. Whatever. Bye. Oh, wait. I miss Jack Nicholson movies, Dustin Hoffman. That's Hollywood for me. Yeah, Jack Nicholson was a big part of like the BBS thing, the movies that they produced, like Five Easy Pieces and stuff like that. That era of Hollywood is pretty incredible. The films Bob Rafelson made, all of those movies are just amazing. Good stream, bruh. Thanks, Inc. Did it make nearly $3 billion? Are you fucking kidding me? I don't know, that's depressing. People should go see good movies again. And now Jack Nicholson and Dustin Hoffman aren't even in movies anymore. Well, Dustin Hoffman still acts. He was in that. Last thing I saw him in was that Noah Baumbach movie, the Meyerowitz's story. The Meyerowitz's stories, new and old. That was a great movie. That's a one on Netflix. If you haven't seen that, you got to see it. But yeah, Jack Nicholson hasn't been in anything since, I want to say, that really, really subpar James L. Brooks movie, How Do You Know? And that was in 2010. It's been almost a decade since he's been in a movie that I can think of off the top of my head. Yeah, that was a great era of Hollywood. The 70s was a great era. You had Robert Altman making amazing movies, and Spielberg was rising to prominence, and Scorsese was getting started out making films like Taxi Driver and Mean Streets. I really miss when Jack Nicholson would do those kinds of movies where he would give the best performance ever. Five Easy Pieces and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and fucking Chinatown. All those films were amazing. And yeah. All right, I'm actually gonna go. I'm gonna go now. I've said this. This is my third time. I'm getting out of here. I have to pee. Thank you. China is surprising how much influence China has over the box office from our Marvel films. Yeah, movies can do extremely poorly in America, but just because they perform extremely well in China, they'll make $1 billion. Like that fucking Warcraft film. I think when Warcraft came out, it became the highest grossing film in China. And in America, I don't know how much it made, but it flopped here in America. It made a couple $100 million at most. But China pushed it to over $1 billion. It's crazy. Yeah, China has a lot of influence over the box office results. And in fact, so much so that a lot of the time Hollywood will try to cater their films to the Chinese market because they know, if it doesn't do well in America, it's going to be a smash hit over there. We'll definitely make our returns back over in China. So, yeah, Transformers, yeah, those are gigantic movies over there. It's strange that China, the audiences in China do love those movies. I don't know why. The movies that at least I see from China aren't like Transformers. They probably do produce films like that over there, but all the films that I see from China are independent personal dramas, really great films. I subscribed to you soon. Hey, thanks for the subscription, buddy. I hope to see you in the next stream for sure. They did horrible in U.S. and EU, but China single-handedly floated them. I'm sure the Transformers movies did well here in the U.S. I don't know about in Europe. I'm not really sure what the trends are like over there. But, okay, for the fourth time, I'm out of here. Gotta pee really bad. I'll see you guys next time. Love y'all. Zinc deficiency, I'll text you soon. You're the man. Thank you, Hatham BH, for joining me. You're the best.